Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and today I'm going to be giving my match predictions for week 28 Premier League fixtures. And if we get anything like we just saw week 27, we are in for some amazing games. We saw Manchester United drop points yet again against Southampton, bottom of the league. Can Sellers motivate his players to get themselves out of the relegation zone for Southampton? We also saw Bournemouth shockingly beat Liverpool, where Liverpool literally destroyed Man United a week earlier. We even saw Chelsea win back-to-back games in the Premier League somehow, beating Leicester City away from home. So if we get anything like we just saw, I'm telling you, we're going to be seeing some jaw-dropping results, some amazing fixtures, and honestly, I'm expecting more of the same. We got Arsenal versus Crystal Palace, another London derby, and shockingly, Arsenal have not been Crystal Palace at home since 2018. We also got Chelsea versus Everton. Can Chelsea make it 3 wins on the bounce? We even got Tottenham Hotspur travelling to St Mary's. Could they make it back-to-back wins and literally cement their place in the top 4 this season? However, before I go on this video and give my match predictions, you know I'm going to say, make sure you guys like, comment and hit that big subscribe button right there, because only 10% of you guys are actually subscribed, and make sure you leave your predictions in the comment section. So the first game I'm predicting, it has to be this. It's the London derby between Arsenal versus Crystal Palace. We have some nice storylines with Vieira returning back home, where he made his name, his household name, as an Arsenal legend. So let's see if he'll be able to dent Arsenal, his former club's title hopes when it comes to winning the Premier League this season. However, going into this game, as a Crystal Palace fan, you couldn't have asked for a worse time to play the Gunners, who have been absolutely superb this season. Arsenal literally recovering from their little hiccup early on in the season, winning 5 games on the bounce in the Premier League. They have nearly a unblemished record at home, obviously drawing to Brentford and losing to Manchester City. But apart from that, they have been beating every single team at home, including star-studded teams like Liverpool, Tottenham and even Manchester United. So going into this game, Arsenal will be licking their lips, thinking that they'll be able to beat Crystal Palace, especially since Crystal Palace are the only Premier League side so far who are yet to win all year, and it's been 3 months already. So Crystal Palace have been in abysmal form. So will Arsenal be able to beat Crystal Palace in this game, or do you think Crystal Palace will shockingly pull off an upset, especially since Arsenal have not been able to beat Crystal Palace at home since 2018? So this just shows you, like I said earlier, anything can happen, and potentially Crystal Palace can make a massive statement within this game and kickstart their season yet again this year. However, Crystal Palace's decent record at Emirates, I feel like it's a hoax. It's not going to be a massive factor going into this game, because this is a new reformed Arsenal side which we have seen all Premier League season. They've been playing some sensational football, putting teams at the sword and dominating games. We even saw it in the game against Fulham. It was a walk in the park. It was so easy. I didn't even think Arsenal got out of third gear, how relaxed and sensational they were performing, and Fulham could not get near any of their star-studded named players, especially Trossard, who I predicted when he got signed for Arsenal to be an amazing signing. His ability to literally drop into pockets of space, literally help Martinelli down the left-hand side and outnumber right backs. He has been everywhere. He's been performing at such a high level. I feel like it's unlocked Arsenal's attack in a new dimension, where it felt like they were still or flat and were predictable at times, where teams were able to figure them out. And that false 9 role has literally been taking teams apart, and I expect the same in the game against Crystal Palace. Going into this game, we know Crystal Palace have been absolutely abysmal. The first team in 3 consecutive games not to register a shot on target since 2003 to 2004. This just shows going forward, Crystal Palace are not a threat, and you'd be shaking your head thinking, how is that even possible when you got talented players like Elise, Zaha, Eze, etc. However, it hasn't been channeling. Crystal Palace haven't been able to summon it up, and going into this game, they're going to need to, because we know Arsenal in the last 5 games have scored 16 goals, which just shows you in front of goal, they have been sensational and they have been clinical. Crystal Palace will need to score goals in this game to literally have a chance of picking up any points. I can't see anything but an Arsenal win within this fixture. I'm going to go for a straightforward 3-0 victory for the Gunners within this game. So the next game I'm going to be predicting is Southampton versus Tottenham Hotspur, and both teams will be having a spring in their step, getting positive results within their last game. And although Tottenham did win their last game against Nottingham Forest, they will know they'll be in for a tough matchup against Southampton, especially under Sellers, where he used to be the bridesmaid, the assistant manager, becoming the main man as the manager for Southampton, and he has literally transformed their side defensively. I don't care what you say. If you get a clean sheet at Old Trafford and at Stamford Bridge and getting results, that just shows you have been able to make them so tough mentally and physically where oppositions cannot break your shape down. The fact that he's been able to do this when we know Southampton historically throughout the last season or so have been a leaky defence, it just deserves so much plaudits and credit, because we know previous managers have struggled to make Southampton resilient and tough to beat. And going into this game, this might be a favourable matchup for Southampton. This is because we know Tottenham Hotspur love to play the 3-4-3 formation, which relies on a counter-attacking style of play. However, I feel like within this fixture, Tottenham Hotspur are going to have their owners to literally take the game to Southampton. And when you have a midfield of Højbjerg and Skip and Bentancur missing, this is uninspiring. And we know on the low block, these guys do not have the bravery or the courageousness to pick up the ball and play it in between the lines to really hurt Southampton. We know Tottenham Hotspur, especially this season, have been Harry Kane centric. Everything goes through him, and if we neutralise that threat, that world-class striker, we know that Southampton will have a great chance of picking up results. Yes, Tottenham Hotspur have been scoring so many goals this season, but if you actually break it down, you will know that Harry Kane has played a massive factor in nearly most of the goals, and if it wasn't for him, it has come down to set pieces. If Southampton neutralise the threat of Harry Kane and are switched on when it comes to set pieces, we know Tottenham Hotspur struggle to score goals from open play. Yes, they got a nice result against Nottingham Forest, but that was to give me 3 points, because like I said last week, we know Nottingham Forest away from home do not have the same motivation as they do when they play at home. Yes, at the moment, everything's looking rosy at Tottenham Hotspur, with Richarlison starting, although we had a little argument with Antonio Conte, and they got knocked out of the Champions League and the FA Cup. But at the end of the day, we know it's all simmering. Antonio Conte is going to want to leave. We know Harry Kane potentially will leave. And we know Richarlison, deep in his heart, is still disgruntled by the fact that Antonio Conte called him out. I just feel like all it will take is for Tottenham Hotspur to go down 1-0 for everything bad to unravel like it usually does for Tottenham Hotspur. I don't think they will lose, because I still think they have enough quality and it's difficult to silence Harry Kane across 90 minutes. But I truly feel like Southampton, yet again, will be tough and brave enough to literally pull out a nice result for themselves to potentially keep their hopes when it comes to survival this Premier League season. Conte's so-called negative tactics aren't the formula when it comes to breaking down low blocks, and the fact that the vibe at Tottenham Hotspur is still not great, and we know that side has too many ups and downs, too many mood swings. That's why I think Southampton will be smart and shrewd enough to get a result within this fixture. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw between the two sides. So the next game we're going to be predicting is Chelsea versus Everton. And we know this game is much more important for the away side, Sean Dyche, because they're going to be wanting to get all 3 points to literally put distance between themselves and the relegation battle. However, going into this game, Sean Dyche and Everton will be worried that this Chelsea side is a completely different side we've been seeing in the last 2 or 3 weeks or so. This Chelsea side are actually scoring goals and creating chances, and are actually being dangerous when it comes to attacking football against the opposition. We know Sean Dyche should have rather played a stealth-like Chelsea side, which we've been seeing in the last few months or so, but it feels like Graham Potter has slightly turned it around when it comes to Chelsea, when it comes to putting teams at the sword. Chelsea have won 3 games on the bounce. This is pretty much unheard of, and the fact they got that most important result against Borussia Dortmund to literally launch themselves into the quarter-finals of the Champions League, this is just going to put the side in high spirits and optimism going into this game against Everton. And you can either call Graham Potter a genius, which I feel like is too early to say, but he's literally made the right adjustments, the right tactics when it comes to his formation. He has changed it from a 4 at the back to a 5 at the back. And yes, we know Chelsea got the nice flary players, the ballers, to say, with players like Felix and Havertz, but sometimes they can be too on and off. The most consistent outlet threats are their wing backs, and Graham Potter has identified that, reverting back to a 5 at the back to especially allow Chilwell to bomb down that left-hand side with his man-of-match worthy performances against Borussia Dortmund and getting that massive goal against Leicester City, his former club. When you get Reece James back down that right-hand side, we know Chelsea are going to be electric and are going to be very hard to beat for many oppositions when they face them. This will literally relieve some of the pressure of Havertz and Felix when it comes to dropping off, because we know that they're not going to be the only source of creating chances. They can rely on their wing-backs, and they can really focus on getting in the box and scoring goals, where we know that they have had so much responsibility when it comes to the build-up play as well. We've seen Enzo Fernandez performing well as well, with that great assist to Havertz in that Leicester City game, showing that he has such great technical ability as well. But going into this game against Everton, Chelsea know it's going to be tough. We saw Sean Dyche pull out a Sean Dyche performance against Brentford, getting a massive 3 points, winning 1-0 against Brentford, which should not be taken lightly because we know Brentford went on a 12-game unbeaten streak. So the fact that Everton and Sean Dyche were able to do this is literally massive plaudits to them, because we thought Everton were dead and buried when we were under Frank Lampard. Going into this game, we know how Sean Dyche and Everton are going to line up. They're going to literally be resilient, compact, organised and disciplined, frustrate Chelsea, sit back and literally eliminate the tight pockets of space for Havertz and Felix to pick up the ball. This means that there has to be greater emphasis for Chelsea when it comes to moving the ball faster and quicker to unsettle Everton, to get them out of shape. And we always know when it comes to low blocks, rigid shapes, the best way to create chances is down the wings, because there's going to be space for the players like Chilwell or whoever starts down that right hand side to literally bomb away and get early crosses. So the emphasis is on the midfield for Enzo Fernandez, Kovacic, Felix, etc. to get the ball out wide so they can cross the ball for players like Havertz to score goals. I think Chelsea will make it 4 wins in the bout, surprisingly. I'm going to go for a straightforward 2-1 victory against Everton within this fixture at Stamford Bridge. So the next game we're going to be predicting is Nottm Forest versus Newcastle, and we know the away side Newcastle will have their tails up, winning against Wolves 2-1 to collect their first 3 points since January 14th. So they're going to be in high spirits and motivated going into this game against Nottm Forest. However, going into this game, Eddie Howe and the Newcastle players will have to understand and be prepared that this fixture against Nottm Forest, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be as tough as nails travelling to the City ground, because we know teams in the past have struggled notoriously. Liverpool losing 1-0. Literally, Manchester City were not able to collect all 3 points. Nottingham Forest have made it a staple ground where teams have found it tough to break them down, and they have great intensity, great spirits, and they feed off the crowd's energy. It's electric at times. Despite Nottingham Forest losing away to Tottenham Hotspur, we know that's not them true selves, especially at home, like I said, because literally players like Johnson and Gibbs White, the intensity, the work rate, they literally start it off, it festers and feeds off to the other players, and Newcastle are going to be pressed. They are going to be in a lot of 50-50 battles, and they must be prepared to be switched on, because we know Nottingham Forest have the ability to literally take advantage of any mistakes or loose passes Newcastle may use in this fixture. However, let me just focus on the away side Newcastle. They would have felt like they had a massive weight lifted off their shoulders, getting a massive victory against Wolves at home. They can finally put the bad run behind them and potentially build momentum within this fixture. And going into this game, some players are entering this game in form. Amaran started on the bench, and maybe the rest, that's what he needed, because we know he scored that massive important goal to get Newcastle all 3 points against Wolves. He looked livelier, hungrier than ever, literally driving at the opposition and causing all sorts of problems. And the same thing can be said about Isaac in that first half, playing down the left hand side, having acres of space. His intelligence, his IQ to literally pick up the ball and drive at defenders has caused teams problems, and potentially this can be a building block for Newcastle later on in the season, especially since we know they have struggled to score goals in back-to-back games. When was the last time Newcastle scored 2 goals in a game? It feels like centuries ago. It feels like such a long time ago. However, at the end of the day, like I said, the Nottingham Forest ground, City ground, it's no joke. It's not for the faint of hearted. We know teams have struggled there, and I think Newcastle will not be able to pick up all 3 points. Not because Newcastle are bad, but the environment and the atmosphere are going to allow Newcastle to have this game easy. I think it's going to be high scoring, especially since we know Johnson has been in a rich vein of form, and Gibbs White, I like him a lot as well, harassing CDMs when it comes to building up from the back. I just feel like Nottingham Forest have enough to make and frustrate Newcastle within this fixture. I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw within this game, high scoring. So the next game I'm going to be predicting is Wolves versus Leeds, and what a massive 3 points this is going to be for both sides when it comes to the relegation battle. And going into this game, I know what you're thinking. It is literally 13th versus 19th. This isn't a massive game, but if you actually look at the Premier League table Only 4 points separate 13th and 19th, which just shows you how important of a game this is going to be for both sides if they want Premier League football next season. And going into this game, I feel like it's going to be fairly close. I feel like it's going to be evenly matched, because we know Leeds have been performing well ever since they got their new manager Garcia, getting a massive point against Brighton, who we know have been sensational this season, and also beating Southampton at home 1-0. So it feels like the new manager bounce back has been working for Leeds. And we know Wolves under Lopetegui have been good. Despite losing to Newcastle away from home, you could have easily said they should have won. Not only should have Nick Pope should have got sent off in the first half and conceded a penalty, Wolves were the better side in the second half, but weren't able to take their chances. We know Lopetegui loves to change the formation, loves to adjust his tactics throughout the game, and has worked at times, but it felt like in the game against Newcastle, he overcomplicated, and it allowed Newcastle to get back within this game to pick up all 3 points. But I don't think Lopetegui will make the same mistake, and he'll be looking and have his eyes set on this matchup against Leeds, because he will know at Molineux, at home against a relegation contender, you must be picking all 3 points. However, Leeds are going to be a tough outfit. Brentford is scoring goals again, scoring the absolute worldie, which we have not seen in the last 2 years or so due to injuries and not great form. And it wasn't just the goal, it was the build-up play. He looked hungrier, livelier, pressing teams, creating for his teammates as well. So Wolves will have to understand that Leeds have this new lease of life, not only throughout the whole spine of their team, but also their main man who looks hungry to score goals. Like I said, I feel like it's going to be too tough to split the two sides, which I feel like have been much better under the new managers. But at the end of the day, I like Wolves. I think they're very talented. They've got technical players who can win you matches. And I just think Wolves will be able to beat Leeds, especially at home when you got your fans there and they'll understand the occasion of how important this fixture is going to be. I think they'll be able to snatch all 3 points. I'm going to go for a 2-1 victory for the home side Wolves.